Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. Oh, the Illblurmatic. Welcome back to Illblurmatic, and today we are back with another review on Stargirl. The latest episode, Stargirl Season 2, Episode 5. Let's get right into it. So this episode starts off with pretty much Sydney. Very interesting. We get a little of a background story about Sydney's past. Originally, she's not from Blue Valley. Shockingly, I was like, I thought she had been a Blue Valley citizen all her life. I guess that wasn't the case, but let's get right to Sydney's story. So Sydney pretty much used to live in Farmsville, California. So this takes place 10 years before her pretty much moving to Blue Valley. Sydney wakes up from having a nightmare as a little girl. Her mother comes into her room and she said, kind of reassuring her daughter, "What's wrong? I saw daddy. Daddy's here." And she's like, "Oh, daddy's not here. He don't know where we at," and stuff like that. And he's trying to make me like him, meaning that he wanted his daughter to be a reptilian like him, you know what I'm saying? So Sydney's kind of mortified by it, you know what I'm saying? A little upset, furious about it. Mother reassures her that everything's gonna be okay. It's her actual real mother, because last season we seen her stepmother, not her real mother. So I'm glad we get a chance to see her relationship with her real mother versus her stepmother, because they're definitely polar opposites. Seemed like she really loved her real mother, but her stepmother, not quite. So I'm glad that that's, scenarios there. But eventually her mother cuts the light off. And who is standing in the dark? It is no other than Dragon King himself standing in the dark. So apparently this is what went down. His mother got killed by Dragon King, and he probably took her to Blue Valley against her own will. And we see Sydney kind of traumatized by it. Okay, so that's the thing we see. But also in this episode, we see Courtney eventually doing her thing, being a hero that she is, a Stargirl, coming back home, going through the window. And who is in her bedroom waiting on her to come back? It is no other than her stepfather, Pat. Pat is like, "Hey, you passed the hero curfew. We told you before this particular time." And literally we see Pat like, "Well, I have some more information pretty much on Eclipso, the new other villain for this season." And it's interesting. This is definitely interesting, because I'm like, ooh, I wonder what he found out about Eclipso. You know what I'm saying? Got my Birdman hand rip going on. And he finds out that Eclipso, pretty much the weather it starts to get more severe, tornadoes, floods. So catastrophic type of weather, dealing with Eclipso's powers, you know what I'm saying, with the weather changing for the worse. Maybe that's what happened to those people on Diablo Island. That's probably why they're not alive. None of the people survived. That definitely could be an exact reason why no one survived. Also in this episode, we see Sydney pretty much try to make her move. What do I mean by making her move? Making her move to recruit Cameron, Jordan's son, also known as Icicle Sr. Jordan is Icicle Jr. Literally trying to recruit Jordan. But before Sydney could even try to do that, Grandma comes in to save Jordan. Not Jordan, Cameron. And Grandma's like, "Nah, we don't really like your family. We don't trust you," and stuff like that. Sydney and her kind of have a stare down, you know what I'm saying? And you tell Grandma was about that business. Grandma almost let them powers go, you know what I'm saying? And we see her grandma's eyes turn like a cold white color. I was like, Sydney, do you really wanna go there? You wanna go there, right? Do you wanna go there? Sydney, bats off. Cameron doesn't know that that's going on. He is still painting a mural that of his father, that is Jordan, also known as Icicle Sr. And it was interesting to see Sydney tried to pursue, but grandma just wasn't having it. So she eventually just backs off because I think Sydney realized, like, I don't need these problems. You know what I'm saying? So I did like that Sydney, she was hesitant, but you understood why. Like, grandma just was like, not up in here, you not recruiting my grandson, okay? But also in this episode, we see Cameron pretty much again, you know what I'm saying? We see Cameron inside the school and literally talking to his art teacher, the art teacher and everything, and the art teacher admiring his art and everything. But also we see Sydney comes in before the teacher comes in, and pretty much we understand why Cameron doesn't really like Sydney a little bit. You know, he said, remember what you told me when you were 4 years old and stuff like that. So whatever she said when she was 4 years old, Cameron remembered that. He had a trust issue with her. He's like, how can I trust you? You know what I'm saying? Sydney pretty much thought she could recruit him. That was not the case, but before she left out, she let Eclipso out. Eclipso, yes, the one that destroyed the people on was that Diablo Island out. She let Eclipso out, and it took over the art teacher. But before that, we see pretty much Cameron expressing his feelings for Courtney, also known as Stargirl, to the art teacher. You know what I'm saying? He's like, hey, can I show you something? And he showed the art teacher that, you know, he said, hey, yo, you should tell her that you have feelings for her and stuff like that. Cameron's kind of the shy artsy kid, you know what I'm saying, in school. And literally, eventually he said, you know what, I am going to do that, you know. So that was very interesting that we saw. Also in this episode, we see Cameron again, and we see before that Rick having the trauma of remembering that Solomon Grundy killed his parents, and him pretty much driving his car. Rick eventually comes across Cameron's mural of his father, and they have eye contact. Like, there's not necessarily a beef, but you could tell they don't like each other. And I don't know if it's because he's close to Courtney. Maybe that's what it is, but Courtney ain't interested in Rick. You know what I'm saying? And maybe Cameron thinks that. He's like, well, they're always together, probably. Kind of thinks like maybe they're idol or something like that. So there is some tension between the fellas. Like, Cameron's like, why is he looking at me like that? I was like, uh-oh. There's going to be some beef this season, boy, between Cameron, also known as Icicle Jr., and our man, also known as Rick. So, I mean, that's what they set that up for. But also, we see that pretty much the art teacher teaching the class, and Yolanda, and pretty much Courtney in class. But after that, it takes for a turn. We see the art teacher not being himself, out of character. So now he is definitely possessed by Eclipse. So he's throwing up paint. Paint is everywhere in the freaking room. And we know something's off. So there's definitely proof that Eclipso is definitely in Blue Valley. Also, we see pretty much Shade again. Shade and Barbara. And the conversation between the two, we see Shade pops up magically in Barbara's office inside Blue Valley. And literally, he said, hey, tell your daughter to chill out. Like, yo, don't have her trying to figure out where the gym is at, because my real objective is to destroy the Black Gym itself. And literally, he's like, wait a minute. She's like, so you want my daughter to stop following you and stuff like that? Pretty much it was interesting. Barbara's situation, she's like, I hope you're not like Jordan, because Jordan had a thing for Barbara. And Shay was like, no, you remind me of a family member of mine. I'm not romantically interested in you. And she's like, well, how would I get in contact with you? And Shay said, yo, look at the card that I sent you. And literally we see the card that actually has his contact, his information on there. Richard Swift is what he goes by as a civilian name, but as his villain name, he's Shade, and literally has his contact information on there. So the card was actually a card, had writing on it, but he used magic. And then he randomly kind of like disappears. I'm like, I like his entrance as a villain. He's got like this mystery edge to him. So I'm like, he's disappearing. He kind of like reappears. I'm like, I like this guy. Despite him being a villain for the show, I don't think he's going to be the super Bane villain of the show. But I like Shade kind of like telling her like, yo, you need to have your daughter stop doing this and stuff like that. And he also talks about like, I don't want to fight these kids, meaning he doesn't want to fight the New Injustice Society. He is on a mission to destroy the gym. So apparently Shade does have some type of empathy despite that. Also, we learned that pretty much Courtney and Pat having an issue that literally Courtney was like, well, he told me that our, you know what I'm saying, Dr. Midnight, pretty much daughter was killed by him. You know, how's the villain tell me more about this and you keeping secrets from me? So there's still a sense of like, pretty much Pat is not telling everything to Courtney. Courtney feels like Shade has done a better job at it. And it's kind of messed up. Like there's definitely some trust issues between the two. And I was like, man, that kind of sucks because literally we could tell that Pat cares about his stepdaughter and we could tell that Courtney cares about her stepfather. You know what I'm saying? So very interesting that we see that there's still some like a trust. Also in this episode, Beth, let's talk about Beth. So Beth literally really feels that the real Dr. Midnight is still alive. Luckily, Rick is there to the rescue because we know Rick and Beth are going to end up being a thing this season. But that's not what I'm talking about. But the thing is, Rick backs up Beth saying, yo, I agree with Beth. I think he's still alive. And we see Pat pretty much reassure Beth and Rick, also known as Our Man, and you know, Beth as the new Midnight, that if he's alive, I'm gonna do everything in my power to find out what has happened to him. I think pretty much this is my prediction for it is literally that the original Dr. Midnight is stuck inside that black gym. He probably was in there with Eclipso, but instead of Eclipso being inside the gym, he's inside the gym himself because Beth Goggles taught the real name and he was trying to contact her to find Pat. Okay, so that's the other thing. Also, we see in this episode pretty much with Mike. We see Mike trying to be like Pat. He's like, look, my dad's doing all this stuff. He's sidekick status. I want to follow in his footsteps type of thing. So we do see that in this episode. So I was like, wow. But we see Pat talk to him, say, hey, look, we'll work on a small project at the Justice Society of America. Then we'll work on something bigger. So he wants to include Mike to be a part of the team, even though he's not anyone with powers or any type of gifts or anything. And it's interesting. So Pat wants to include Mike. He doesn't want Mike to feel left out or kicked to the curb. Even though he doesn't have Thunderbolt anymore. So that was really cool that he included Mike. But also in this episode, we see Courtney, and pretty much Our Man, also known as Rick, and Beth, and pretty much Yolanda, also known as Wildcat, meet up at the school, at the football field, but they notice that the art teacher is still at the school. So they enter the room of the art teacher, and they notice that there is literally paint everywhere in the room. Like he's just been, doing things with paint and stuff like that. There are some empty canvases, and pretty much everyone starts to see their fears, except for Stargirl, okay? Look, except for Stargirl. Yolanda sees pretty much Henry and pretty much Henry's father and pretty much their faces, and she freaks out, trying to destroy the canvases. Our Man sees Solomon Grundy. Of course, he's afraid of Solomon Grundy. Like, we all knew that Our Man, also known as Rick Tyler, is scared of Solomon Grundy. We also see Beth experiencing in the school, her parents getting divorced. We see a picture ripped in half. So this Eclipso is definitely possessed the art teacher pretty much. But what I like about this episode, we eventually see them like overcome their fears, you know what I'm saying? Despite them seeing their fears straight in their face type of thing. Yolanda's fear is pretty much Henry and Henry's father. She was the cause for both of them to die. She ends up killing Henry's father. Henry ends up saving the gang, you know what I'm saying, with his powers. We see, like I said, Solomon Grundy. I think the reason why Rick feels Solomon Grundy is because he killed his parents. Like, he's afraid that he may be the next one that Solomon Grundy kills. Maybe that's why he's trying to show empathy for Solomon Grundy and befriending him. Kind of strange, isn't it, right? But that could be the case, and making him probably a powerhouse for the Justice Society of America and not amused, like how he's being used and everything. So that was interesting as well. I also forgot to mention, we see Cameron and Courtney connect again, you know what I'm saying? Him showing his affection for Courtney, like he's showing his artwork. Courtney's impressed by it. She really liked it. She didn't think it was creepy. We also see her going to Cameron's house and spending time. And literally before this, just before they go to the art teacher's classroom and stuff inside the school, Courtney kind of like playing Cameron again. Cameron's like, this always happens to me. You told me, you promised me last time we were going to do something together. And like Cameron feel like a distrust for Courtney. Like, she's keep telling me these promises. They're never coming through. And that's how it is sometimes with the ladies, y'all. You like someone and things just doesn't fall through. And Cameron's trying to go in for the kiss, and Courtney's like, hey, I gotta go. Her phone just kept blowing up, you know what I'm saying? All these different messages from people is pretty much probably, Pat, Rick, you know what I'm saying? Yolanda, Beth. And she has to go off, and, the grandma's kind of spying on Cameron, I was like, wow, grandma is overprotective, okay? She is overprotective, okay? So we see that, so that was interesting. But when they get into the room, they also figure out that the art teacher is inside this eye, like this painting of an eye. He comes out like, I was like, whoa, that was creepy, okay? Creepy, you know what I'm saying? He's coming out the thing. And literally, we see Courtney battle, also known Stargirl, battle the art teacher. And pretty much, she's able to repel Eclipso's powers with her staff. She's shooting a beam of lights at him. And literally, we see Courtney eventually helping the art teacher. I thought she had killed him, okay? When I see it, I said, oh my God, Courtney, don't. I hope she didn't kill him. She didn't kill him. He pretty much is in psychiatric care due to her getting Eclipso out of his actual physical body. So we see them battle it out in the hallway, and also some of the other heroes battling out in the hallway. But towards the end of this episode, we see pretty much Sydney talking to the Fiddler, Sun, and Artemis, because those are the renewed recruits for the Injustice Society. And she has her eyes on pretty much Mike. Mike Duggan, pretty much Pat's son, to be the next member to be recruited for the Injustice Society, because she couldn't get Cameron. Cameron was like, get out of here. I'm not trying to be a part of that. Also in this episode, we see Beth pretty much confronting her parents that her parents are actually getting a divorce. You know what I'm saying? And she said, well, we're going to try to figure this out. Like, we haven't officially signed the papers and everything. So she is worried about her parents getting a divorce and everything. So that's very interesting. But I gotta say, this episode was really interesting. I'm glad we got Sydney's backstory of her real relationship with her real mother. You know what I'm saying? I like that aspect of it, because now I got a chance to figure out, oh, she's not officially from Blue Valley. I know this episode had a lot in it, you know what I'm saying? We see Cameron's return, but also I forgot to mention one thing. We see Cameron again, excuse me, my voice is a little raspy today. we see Cameron again, and Cameron, I think from the heartbreak from Courtney, this is the very end of the episode, he starts to get his ice powers, okay? Like, I think Courtney, like, doing all the stuff she did kind of triggered it, and we see Cameron, like, his hand kind of get a little cold and arm, and we see, like, the paintbrush when it falls over on the cement, because he's still painting the mirror of his father, that is pretty much the ground's kind of iced up. And I was like, oh, Cameron's like powers have officially kind of come out. So we're definitely going to see Icicle Jr. this season. But I thought this episode was really a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? We learned about Bev's parents officially no longer could hide that they were getting a divorce, but they're trying to work out and see if they can still stay together. We learned about Rick being afraid of Solomon Grundy. Him having the trauma from it. We learned about Sydney's trauma and her actual mother's, what really happened to her mother, her real mother, not a stepmother. We learned about Eclipso's powers dealing with the weather. And also, I forgot to mention one last thing is that Eclipso's getting stronger. He doesn't need he doesn't need the Black Jewel anymore. So with him not needing the Black Jewel anymore, he's able to manifest himself in the physical reality. Yikes! So this is my latest review on Stargirl episode 5, Summer School. Have you seen the latest episode, guys? Your boy, Ill Blurmatic. Have a great day. I'm out.